Time now for more Commitment 2010 election news. The primary election is just 18 days away as the campaigns kick into high gear. The race for the Democratic nomination for governor between Neil Abercrombie and Mufi Hannemann has grabbed most of the headlines, but there's also a winner-take-all special election for Honolulu mayor and city prosecutor, plus some key legislative races. Joining us now to give us a preview of the weeks ahead is our political analyst, Neil Milner. Neil, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Mahia.
And Neil, by the way, is a UH political science professor at the University of Hawaii Manoa, and we're always glad to have him here. Now let's start off with the exciting governor's race. And I must point out, you were the very first analyst to point out that Abercrombie was leading slightly over Hannemann, but also Hannemann released another poll that said that there's a statistical dead heat. So where do things stand, and what does Mufi Hannemann need to do to push forward?
Well, things stand pretty much as far as we know where they did before. And actually, both the poll was right and Mufi Hannemann was right, because it's close enough to be within the margin of error. I think what you're going to see in the last 2 weeks is an attempt on the part of Hannemann, who has more money, to really do through the media what he hasn't been all that successful doing yet, which is to redefine Neil Abercrombie in a way that makes him look less competent as a leader than Hannemann. Hannemann emphasizes the extent to which he has executive experience, the extent to which he's a collaborator. The difficulty is that this hasn't been able to work all that well yet. This has been Hannemann's theme all the way along the line. But I think what you're going to see in the last 2 weeks is Hannemann to try to take that kind of initiative. By the way, there will be another poll coming out very soon. Rasmussen did a poll here. They did it last week. They said it would be out very soon, and it'll tell you a little bit more. But I think the race is still pretty much along the lines that it has been. It's two very well-defined candidates in which Neil Abercrombie has been able to hold maybe a slight lead, and where everybody is waiting to see what Mufi Hannemann is going to do with all this kind of money, and the suspicion is he's going to try to use it in the media. The challenge is that there hasn't been a media strategy that's been dead bang successful yet on the part of Hannemann.
One of the things that's still getting a lot of talk is this campaign mailer, this advertisement put out by the Hannemann campaign that compares the two of them. Basically, Hannemann saying that he has a local Japanese wife, Abercrombie does not. It also compares the different universities they went to. Abercrombie went to UH, Hannemann went to Harvard, and it also puts Abercrombie saying that he won a beard contest several years ago. So what do you make of this mailer and people's reaction to it?
Well, it's always hard to say what the people's reaction is. We know what the elite's reaction is. We know what the news media's reaction is. We know what other politicians' reaction was. It's interesting to see what happened in the debate last night about that. They had pretty much made nice about the ad. Hannemann had sort of apologized. Neil had sort of accepted it. Last night it came up again because it had gone out after Hannemann said he wasn't going to use it anymore. It went out on the neighbor islands, and Hannemann said that was a mistake, and Neil said it's not a mistake. I think that from the standpoint of the Hannemann campaign, there was a tactical error in that ad. I'm not talking about the morality or the ethics. The ad was that it's certainly consistent with his campaign to try to differentiate between himself and Neil on certain kinds of grounds, leadership grounds and so on. I think that by raising the issue of local versus not local and some of these other issues, it made the ad look dirtier and more negative, and that really didn't have to be done from a Hannemann standpoint.
And really quickly, let's talk about the race for Honolulu mayor. You know, the latest poll came out showing that former prosecutor Peter Carlisle way ahead of one of the opponents, and that's acting mayor Kirk Caldwell. Do you think that Caldwell can push ahead, or is the race basically over?
Race is over. If you want to put it simply, the race is over. I don't predict the future very often, but here's Caldwell's difficulty. He's way behind a candidate who has enormous positive ratings, who has a very good reputation. Carlisle is doing what he'd done before. Caldwell is not the incumbent. And so Caldwell doesn't have a whole lot of things working for him. The difference in the last poll between the two candidates was enormous.
And I have one quick question. The Mixed Martial Arts Association just endorsed Lieutenant Governor Duke Aiona for governor. What do you make of that? Is mixed martial arts jumping into the fray now in terms of politics?
Yes, they're jumping into the fray in terms of politics. Maybe they should have some kind of beatdown to decide who really is the best candidate. I don't know why these things. I know that in other places, witches' covens, in another state, witches' covens have endorsed candidates. Hey, it's the right to endorse.
Well, you know, some might say politics is a MMA fight, you know, because they really get down there. But it's always interesting in terms of local politics. Neil Milner, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be talking more politics in the next hour with our political analyst.